Morning, folks. Coming to you with the Edwards Cured Meat podcast Q&A session. And today we're absolutely thrilled to have Ian Boden, a James Beard-nominated chef from The Shack in Staunton, Virginia. And we're just going to have a quick conversation about cured meats, what's going on in Staunton, what's going on with in his world, as he has a couple projects under his belt right now as we're all trying to work through this. So, Ian, thanks very much for joining us today. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, man. A little crazy, a little overwhelmed, but it's awesome to see y'all. I haven't seen any of you in what feels like 10 years. I'm sure it's been a lot less than that, but that's what it feels like.
It's the longest march in history right now, no doubt about that. So I know, I'll tell you what, why don't we start off? Tell us a little bit about The Shack and what you guys have been doing out there, because, certainly you've been getting some well-deserved props, and so some of our regular folks dialing in can get a feel for what you're about as a chef.
Yeah. So The Shack, before the madness, we opened about 6 years ago. In February of whatever year that is, 6 years ago, 2014. It started off as a really small restaurant, still very small, but even smaller before. We had 6 tables. Started off us just doing a prefix menu on the weekends, and then we had our burger nights during the week, which very quickly transitioned into us doing a prefix menu all the time because we were really fortunate and got a bunch of great press in our first couple months. Actually, it's funny. I found the bag that our first Suriano ham got delivered in from when we opened the other day when I was cleaning some stuff out. And I was like, oh, this should go in the niche spot. So, yeah, the first delivery we had at this restaurant was a Suriano ham from you guys, a whole Suriano. So to tie it all back together. So I'm a Russian Hungarian Jew. My wife is from this area, the foothills here. And the food here is very much a culmination of those two things. So it's me paying homage to her grandmother Tizzy, who was the matriarch of her family, and the food that she cooked in her little shack, literally. The logo for the restaurant is the shack that she raised 6 kids in. Tying that into my Russian Hungarian Jewish upbringing, and surprisingly, there's a lot of correlations between the two types of cuisine. What I always say is poor people food is poor people food. Doesn't matter where you are. One of the other, big parallels is, obviously Asia Major is a cold climate, as is the mountains, which is why we make such great hams here. It's why we do so much fermentation and pickling and all those good things. That's that in a nutshell.
Awesome. Fantastic. I think you're probably the first guy to help educate people on schmaltz in Virginia on the whole, no question.
You're the ham evangelist. I'm the schmaltz evangelist.
Yeah. Hey, we just call it lard in our neck of the woods, and all is good.
So there is a difference, though. So when you're doing schmaltz, when you're making schmaltz, you render just like you would for lard. But once you get the fat clarified, you add a ton of sliced onions to it, and you caramelize the onions in that fat, and that's what makes it schmaltz. It's not just rendered fat. So traditionally, like way back in the day, they used goose. Schmaltz was exclusively goose. Then it went to ducks because ducks are much easier to farm raise when they started farm raising animals, right? And then from ducks, when it came to the New World, they went to chicken because commodity chickens were readily available. So, yeah.
But it actually sounds much better than lard, too.
I'm not going to say I'm not biased, but it is.
So when it comes to, say, cured meats, I mean, how big of a role, or just, you mentioned curing and pickling, how big of a role is that played for you, not just as a shack, but, and what you do on the culinary side of things? And why is it important to you?
Well, so I think every cuisine is really more about its pantry items than anything else. That's how we bring the nuances and flavors to different cuisines. And so cured meats is obviously very much a part of, the Southern vernacular and the Southern pantry. And once again, it's super part of my background as well. I mean, in Russia and Hungary, they make sausages and salamis and different types of cured meats as well. And once again, because they're poor folk, it was much more of a seasoning than it was a center of the plate kind of thing. So you're always trying to add fat and protein to everything you're cooking. For me, I look at cured meats as a seasoning, 100%. One of the ways I was able to incorporate it is by breaking, using country ham as an example. being able to break it down into its flavor profiles, right? So the first thing that I think of when I think of ham is salt, obviously. So, we season with salt quite a bit. So you can remove some salt and add country ham. That takes care of that, right? You want some umami and some background notes, which is something you get from the fermentation and curing process of the hams, right? So you're bringing that back in, and that adds that meaty undertone that you're looking for. Country ham always has some sweetness from the quality of the pork itself. All right. So it's basically what I'm saying is we're layering the flavors using the same language, but a different medium, if that makes sense. So that's how we always approach it when we're adding ham or pork or even your smoked sausages to what we're doing.
Ian, some of the things that we're trying to do, we do the dry cured ham, of course, bacon, dry cured bacon, and a country sausage smoked that's a drier sausage than most, but it has a lot of flavor to it. But some of the other products that we've been working on was that dry cured lamb,
yes,
and dry cured prosciutto duck, which came out really nice.
I haven't seen you guys with duck.
Well, the USDA freaked out over that, and the USDA freaked out over the lamb too.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so we're going to fix that.
Cool.
It's a long haul, meaning getting the USDA to understand the concept of the process itself is lethal no matter what the species is. Right. I mean, it's science, and it's
science is irrelevant, Sam. You know that.
It's been a struggle though,
yeah,
and sometimes having it's great to have a PhD on board about it, but it also helps sometimes to have chefs participate in a little bit of history behind it too. If there's anything that you can contribute to that process would be helpful.
I'd be happy to anytime. I remember when you guys first released the lamb ham that David Shields wrote that whole article about the history of cured lamb in the mountains, right?
Yep.
There's a long history of it. What's amazing to me is from a scientific side is that, you're dealing with salinity and water activity, right? And once those two things are controlled, what the hell's the problem?
Right. I had science from the U.S., I had science from Italy and Spain, and literally had a USDA inspector pick up the stuff from Spain and Italy and go, that's not American science, and set it over here. And said, it doesn't apply.
That's insane. That's completely insane.
It happened.
It's insane.
And I have witnesses. It's crazy. It's been very frustrating.
Anything I can do to help with that. Yeah, you got my number. Just call.
Well, we certainly appreciate all that you do in that realm with our products. Keep doing what you're doing.
Well, I wouldn't do it if it wasn't delicious. So we love it.
Well, and I think one thing you said, I want to tell it's. I think it's important for folks who are chiming in to realize they don't necessarily need to be a James Beard nominated chef to pull out some of the exact same flavors you're talking about. You mentioned poor people food, but it's all about bringing that flavor to whatever they're doing. And any of this can be done in the home kitchen. Absolutely. I mean, I think most people just think, seasoning a pot of greens or a pot of beans, and that's all I need the hock for. But, you and I both know, and you mentioned it, using cured meats as an ingredient brings so many different levels of flavors to the plate. You get that salt, you get that sweet, you get a bit of that. Sam calls it country twang. I call it funk.
I call it funk too.
Yeah, and it is an acceptable word in the culinary world. Totally. It's but also it's that twang, and I really think sometimes people forget the fact they see what we do or what any cured meat guy does in the ham, bacon, sausage world, and they think breakfast only.
No.
And, from soups to salads to sandwiches to, center of the plate's always fun. Charcuterie boards, of course.
One of the things also that gets forgotten a lot, especially because you guys are slicing and pre-trimming a lot of your hams before they send out, is the ham fat itself and how valuable that is. I mean, we're talking about schmaltz and lard. The flavor of cured ham fat is ridiculous. Y'all know kilt greens, right? The traditional southern mountain thing where you throw hot bacon grease over the top of young greens to kind of wilt it and make a little salad out of it. We've done that with your ham fat, and it's insane. It's insane. I mean, the one thing you have to be aware of is making sure you're trimming off any of the overly yellow fat that happens, so you don't get any of those flavors into your rendered fat. But yeah, I mean, throwing melted ham fat on top of dandelion greens or watercress or young salad greens or shoots, it's pretty special. It's pretty special.
And I have these flashbacks of barrels of that stuff going to a guy that I paid to haul that away.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. Well, so that's our next project, Sam. We gotta work on
that and ham buns,
ham schmaltz, and start marketing that. I'm in.
Yeah, what's that? This bacon. What do they call it? Bacon butter or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen them name it all kinds of stuff. It's yeah. But people are still throwing away their bacon fat when they make bacon at home, which makes me irate. Not at my house. No, not at mine either. We keep a mason jar by the stove. And don't tell anybody I said this. My wife likes to cook our bacon in the microwave, and she likes it extra crispy. I like it limp. So when we do it in the microwave, we can both get what we want. But even still, all that bacon grease goes right into that mason jar, and we cook with it.
Yeah.
We'll see if Sam fesses up or not, because I think Donna's been known to cook a little bacon in the microwave at home.
we're gradually moving her in the right direction on that.
It happens when my wife cooks breakfast. My wife Leslie cooks breakfast, and if she's cooking breakfast, I keep my mouth shut. I've learned. 11 years has taught me some lessons, and I know when to shut up and when to speak.
Yeah, well, I'm over 30 now, so there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So how you guys been dealing with the COVID thing going on up in Staunton?
It's been really hard. It's been really hard. The Shack is very much a destination restaurant. Which is awesome for us, and in these times very difficult for us. We haven't had the dining room open in going on 6 months, and we're actually opening it for the first time tomorrow. It's our first day with seating inside. It's hard. And I think the only way that not just the Shack but restaurants in general are going to get through this is with a lot of consumer education. And that's really challenging because you really don't want to preach at your guests, and you really don't want to shove things down the throats of your guests other than delicious food, right? And we have to, as a community, as a restaurant community, as a food community, figure out how to educate our guests on what it actually takes to have a food service business that's sustainable. I know this is a broader issue that we've all been dealing with on some level or another with local foods and procurement of good quality ingredients. And we've been trying to educate consumers for forever, generations at this point, right? And people aren't really apt to listen. But now if they want to eat out and they don't want to eat in a chain restaurant, it's time for them to start listening. It really, really is. So the Shack's 26 seats and we're now at 10 seats. That means that I can no longer offer an a la carte menu. It means that I have to have a check average of $50 to $75 a person if I want to pay my staff a livable wage. It also means that I have to charge that much if I want to continue to use quality products and support our community of farmers and makers and producers like y'all. None of this stuff is inexpensive. What the consumer needs to understand on top of this is that when you deal with commodity product and you're a restaurant that sells commodity product, there's two people making money in that chain. Two. When we're dealing with local product and local producers, the reason it is as expensive as it is because it's a sustainable model, because everybody in the chain makes something from it. And that's worth something. And our consumers need to understand that. But like I said, it's really hard to put it in a way that's not preachy and to make people understand the importance of it all.
I think one thing I was really impressed with what you did, and it goes back to the education, but also providing great quality local food to not just your employees, but also the local residents in Staunton, where you started doing the pop-up weekend grocery, whether it was our product or other producers that you're using, even getting the guys from Automall Farms involved with it. And that is a trend that we've certainly seen with, chefs and other small specialty stores that I work with. But, talk about those little pop-up things that you're doing, because it also led to a new venture on your plate.
Going more crazy. Or am I crazy? I mean, I keep on joking that like the best thing in the world that we could have done is, so our business dropped 80%. We're at 20% of our previous sales from February, right? So the best thing in the world I could do is take my life savings and sink it into opening another business, right? So my first restaurant in Staunton was called the Staunton Grocery. We had it for 5 years. We had a lot of success. Financial wasn't one of the successes that we got to see. I was super young. I made a lot of poor business decisions, but I learned a hell of a lot. We closed it down after 5 years. So basically, at this point, we're reinvigorating the idea of the Staunton Grocery. When we opened the Staunton Grocery, people kept on calling and asking how much grapefruits were, things of that nature. And we kept on saying it's a restaurant, it's not a grocery store. Well, now we're opening the Staunton Grocery, and it is actually a grocery store. We're not a traditional grocery store by any extent of the imagination. We're actually opening this Sunday as our soft opening. Don't tell anybody. When's this coming out?
next Monday. Monday. So you're good. Yeah.
Good. So, basically, the idea of the shop is to open up the cupboard of the Shack to our local population, to our local customers, and to our community. So we're going to be serving exclusively Southern and Mid-Atlantic products. Or selling and serving, I guess, Southern and Mid-Atlantic products with two exceptions. Nutella, because my wife is making crepes there, and you can't have crepes without Nutella. And we will have some wine that's not from Virginia. We will focus on Virginia wines, but we're going to have wine that's a little bit more outside of the area, just for diversity's sake. But everything else is going to be local. And we've talked for years about putting a face to the product, and I think this is just kind of the next logical step for us, is really introducing our community to the people that have been producing food for them for going on 15 years, since the beginning of the original Staunton Grocery. The hope is that it also turns into kind of like a food community center of sorts. We want to invite friends to come in and talk about what they produce and how they produce it, do tastings, things of that nature. That includes some of our maker friends. Like we're good friends with Corey Blanc, who has Blanc Creative in Charlottesville, and they make the most amazing black steel pans, and they are not inexpensive. And people always ask why they're so expensive, and I want them to come in and tell them. Because they're worth every penny. We have knife maker friends that are coming. Actually, even the people that I just spoke to, Arcobolino, who's the company that makes our pasta extruder for the restaurant, and they're based in Pennsylvania, which is part of the Mid-Atlantic and part of Appalachia. They do a home unit, so we're bringing one of those in so we can demo them. They'll be available for sale there as well. But I want them to come in and talk to people about the history of extruding pasta and what it's all about, and I'll demo pastas. I mean, we want it to be a community gathering point. Unfortunately, right now, the gathering is 3 people or less, but eventually we'd like it to be a little bit bigger than that.
Where is the store going to be in Staunton?
It's literally 10 feet to my right.
Okay. All right.
We had a building next door to us that we rented in the beginning, and it was our storage space. My landlord just finally decided that the floors had fallen in enough, and he was going to replace the floors. And when he pulled out the joists and started replacing the floor joists, my wife walked in and she's like, "This would make a really cool store." And we had been talking about it for years and years and years and years, and we just pulled the trigger. And there goes my life savings, and now we got more work to do.
It'll give you a little extra storage for the Shack, though, because I know that's always been a little tight, being a small restaurant.
Well, so the thing is, a lot of the product that we're going to be selling over there is actually stuff also that we make at the Shack. So we're going to be doing a lot of our own charcuterie. We're making, like this week, we're making pate.
What?
We make our country pate. We'll be doing, we make mortadella. We're selling the mortadella over there. liver mousse, all kinds of stuff like that. We make our pimento cheese that people love. That'll be for sale over there. Jams, jellies, all that stuff. So anything we can, and eventually we'll get into pickles and ferments and selling those over there as well. Anything that we produce here that we think there might be a market for in our community, we're definitely going to sell. We're also going to do some sandwiches, very small menu of sandwiches, very small fresh meat selection. Then, of course, obviously we have a Suriano ham that's sitting in the case ready to be sliced. We'll have your guys' bacon and smoked Surrey sausage, which is all coming today or tomorrow, I believe. So I mean, it's going to be a good mix of things.
And of course, you'll have the 2 shack sauces. Right.
Of course.
Now, that's really cool.
Are you talking about my other business?
yeah, your third. I mean, as long as we're talking,
this is why people think I'm rich, because I've got all these businesses, but I got no money.
That's the joy of a small business owner. So, on the shack sauces though, because you do the one. I use the one, of course, for the deviled country ham salad. Mm-hmm. No doubt that one's a lot of fun. Then the other one is kind of more of a mustard base, more of a
it's a South Carolina style barbecue. So it's yellow mustard and sorghum. So both of our sauces are sorghum based. All the ingredients are Southern. Currently, my co-packer is not in the South, but we're working on that slowly but surely. So we use Muddy Pond sorghum from Tennessee. We have a guy who ferments chili mash for us. Yeah, it's a fun little side project that I got bullied into by my wife. Surprise.
There you go. And I mean, it's not just you'll have them at the store. I mean, folks can also, chefs can find them, I know, through a couple of distributors out there, but folks can find, home consumers if they want to check it out there online, or what's the best way?
They're both for sale on Amazon, and wholesale accounts mostly come direct through me. So send us an email. It's Sorghum LLC. It's SOREGUM LLC at Gmail. Send me an email if you're interested in stocking your store or your kitchen with it.
It really is. Yeah, it's great stuff. And I use that, we've done a lot of events together over the years through Fire, Flower, Fork and other things. And yeah, it's become kind of a staple with some of the menus that when Sammy and I go out and work these things that we throw down, and
we love it.
We always try and give you love where we can. We actually did a virtual thing with some media members about a month and a half ago, and proudly had a bottle of sorghum, the hot sauce sitting in front of a hoof on Suriano. So
very cool.
Yeah. So other than that, things in Staunton are just hunky-dory, right?
Oh, always, man. Always. Other than the month of flooding we've had, yeah, we had a couple of friends lose some restaurants from flooding in downtown Staunton. So we're in the middle of our second week of a fundraiser that we're doing together with Edward Lee from the Lee Initiative. Yeah, we're making latkes with lots of schmaltz and smoked pork. I love doing that. So you got to understand that, like, my favorite thing in the world is making something super, super, super Jewish full of pork products. It makes me so happy.
Well, I guess it was what Charleston Wine and Food last year. I guess it was, you did the media breakfast and it was all about schmaltz, wasn't it?
That was in Atlanta. Yeah, I did raw fish eggs and matzo brie. Yeah, it was fun. I love doing stuff like that, man. And we cooked it in pork schmaltz, of course. What else am I going to do?
And again, it all goes back to education and using local ingredients and educating folks all along the way. So, well, Sam, you got anything else?
No, it was very interesting. Good talking to you.
Yeah, it's good to see you and talk to you again, Sam.
Yeah, it makes me want to ride out to Staunton this weekend.
Well, it's only a 3-hour drive, right?
That's right.
It's like neighbors.
Right. Yeah,
it's only about 2.5 from Surrey, so it's not too bad. But definitely sounds like
Sam. 3 hours. Yeah. Well, you're right. I used to make that Harrisonburg trip all the time.
Diane Flint says it every time I talk to her. Or anytime she introduces me to anybody, because she's in Dogspur, and she's like, anything less than 3 hours is our next door neighbor out here.
Yeah. Right.
Well, it definitely sounds like either Sam or I or both will be making a run out to certainly help you kick off the new grocery project.
We would love that.
Absolutely. Best of luck with the soft open on the new grocery concept coming this weekend. Thank you for your continued support of what we do. Please know we'll always be here to support you any way we can. And have a great day, brother. Good to see you.
Thank you guys so much. It's great seeing y'all. And yeah, anything I can ever do, you can just shout at me.
All right, will do.